Sometimes artists get stuck in genres, but the lady we're focusing on today, this young powerhouse, who by the way simply goes by the name Cass, defies boundaries with her journey. From the depths of grunge to the electrifying heights of rock, her voice is a force of nature, raw, soaring, and drenched in emotion.
Leave behind the old me, the one that never defined me.
An artist that's easily capable of rattling the rafters and touching your soul with equal measure. On stage, Cass is a whirlwind of energy, her presence magnetic, and her every movement a story of rebellion and passion. She's one of Calgary's up-and-coming musicians, and she stands poised to light up a lot of stages in the coming years. How did this start for you? When did you realize that somehow, wait a minute, I can do this?
It started when I moved back to Calgary from Edmonton. I was studying psychology.
Really?
At the U of A, yeah.
What made you go into that field? Because it takes a certain person. Psychology means I care, I want to figure things out. What made you get into that?
For me, it was, I found a lot of interest in the human mind, and I think that kind of correlates to music. So I wanted to understand why people behaved the way they behaved, and why people acted out in certain ways, and why we respond in certain ways. And I was never really good in school. So
really?
Yeah, no, I was terrible at school. I think it's the right brain thing, but it's also, I have a hard time following authority. It's not my strong suit. The whole routine of get up and be on time and sit in class and take notes. And I'm like, I'm so bored. I don't want to do this.
You took the course. When did you know you could do it?
I went to a concert in Edmonton. It was a Barnes Courtney concert. And I saw his charisma on stage, and the guys that opened for him, I actually got to have a chat with them, and they told me they dropped out of school to pursue music. And I was like, oh, I could never do that.
Rite of passage.
That's so risky. Like, how could you be so risky with your life? And they're like, because I only live once. Like, I know it's corny, but why not? It's something I'm good at. It's something I love. Like, I would die for this. And I was like, that's so extreme. Like, I would never do that. But I got to thinking while I was watching the show, and I was like, these people are so comfortable on stage, and I really resonated with that. And all I could do was imagine myself being up there. And I was like, I haven't felt like this since I was 19 was when I last finished off with my music stuff. And I didn't really take it too seriously. So I was like, maybe I should be like a normal adult and go to school and make a lot of money and get a nice big house and play it safe. But I don't know, that concert really changed my life, because I couldn't stop thinking about that show. I was just like, I want to be on a stage. I want to perform. I want to write. I want to make people happy and remind them that it's okay to have fun and not be so serious all the time. My grades started declining drastically because I was writing a lot of music. There's my notes. I have to study for an exam, but there's my piano and there's my microphone. I'm going to choose the piano and the microphone. And then eventually I stopped going to class and just got to work with my music. And that's kind of when I realized I had to make a big choice of, do I want to continue doing this, or do I want to risk it all and see what I can do with that? And I moved back to Calgary, and I'm living with my aunt and uncle now. They're amazing people, very supportive of my music. I was playing every day on the piano and singing, and I was writing songs. They were just pouring out of me. And all I could see was a stage with lights and big crowds. And I was like, I want this, I want this. And it's like that for about a month, until I was like, hey, I need to go on a stage. I need to see if I still have what I had when I was a kid, if not more. And the first place I went to was, I think it was Airdrie Brewsters. I did an open mic, and I was so nervous. You could see my hands like shaking at the piano. I'm like, I haven't sang in public in a really long time. I'm extremely nervous. But everyone responded so well, and they're like, you have an extraordinary gift. Like, don't ever lose this. And just to see everybody's reaction was something that kind of made me realize that I need to keep doing this.
When I was a kid, it happened when you were a kid and you were like, when did you start doing that?
When I was 10, my sister played piano and I was interested, and my dad's like, okay, we'll put you in lessons. I hated reading music. I don't read music. I learn everything by ear. And
a lot of people leave music because of notation.
Oh my God, it drove me nuts. And I remember I threw the piano book at the wall and I was like, I don't want to do this. This is dumb. It felt like school. I didn't have the room to be me and to have my own creative expression. So I was like, I'm not doing this. And then a week later, I wanted to learn Someone Like You by Adele on piano. My dad's like, how? Okay, we'll see what comes from that. And I'm like, just you wait. Like when you get home, I'm going to know the whole song. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
I had these little YouTube tutorials of like where you just watch them play, and he came home and he was just in shock. He's like, well, I guess I'm not selling piano now.
Wow.
So, and I don't even know the singing thing. My mom was a singer, but unfortunately she got really sick and she lost her voice. Mm. So I was around her a lot, and I always wanted to learn. And when she'd do her vocal warm-ups, I would sing in the bathroom when I'd hear her, and it's like, I'm not good, but I want to be good. And I don't know, like singing just kind of naturally happened for me along the way. I think it was just listening.
All the artists I talk to, I always ask, like, what, half of them, as you can understand, and you won't be surprised by this, their parents were not supportive. They said, well, at least have something to fall back on. My
parents have always been pretty supportive. Like they're the kind of parents that are always like, do your best, you know, we'll love you no matter what. Mm-hmm. When I went to university, that was a shock to their systems. They were like, what about music? And I was like, what about it? Like, wow, it's a hobby, you know, because everyone would always tell me that. And eventually I started to believe that, unfortunately. But when I dropped out of school, my parents were really afraid, and they thought I was, you know, going down a bad path of like, I just don't want to do anything. Mm-hmm. And they were, I wouldn't say unsupportive, doubtful that I would be where I am today in such a short amount of time. They're like, you just got back to Calgary. Like, what do you mean you want to go on a big stage? I'm like, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And they were like, oh, all right, well, good luck with that. And now when they come out, they get really emotional. They're just like, we're so proud of you. Like, we didn't think you were going to do what you said you were going to do, because I'm not notorious for doing that. Yeah, I'll do the dishes, and then I don't do the dishes. Yeah, I'll graduate university. I didn't do that.
There's that thing about being a musician I always found, and being surrounded by them all my life. There's just simply different wiring, whether it's nurture or nature, whether they're born with it or else it's just learned behavior. By hanging out with them, I just realized they are different. You are different in a good way. Mm-hmm. You know, the dishes ain't going to break the bank. It doesn't matter. To do the work, you do without a lot of stuff while you're doing the work. There's a certain comfort level you have. I mean, I was at the show, and you represented everything I see in all my musician friends. You know, you had the normal amount of jitters, but not too many. You had that balance that I see in all great musicians. I mean, and the audience reacted to it. I could tell.
It feels like home when I get up on stage. It's like, this is where I'm meant to be. And I'm sure some people get that when they go into school and they're like, I feel very good about this. And I always felt out of place and out of sorts. And when I go up on stage, I'm just like not thinking about anything. And I tend to overthink things a lot. So for that to happen just kind of shows me that like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I want to do. And I will do whatever it takes to stay on this stage.
Who was that girl in school? How would you describe her?
Oh, God. Confused. Very confused and angry. I was always angry when I was in school. Like, people would always see me with my headphones on, like from junior high, elementary, high school, and even university. Just always put the music on. I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to hear the noise. I don't want to hear the chitter chatter. And then class would happen, and I'd just be daydreaming about music all the time.
It's interesting. Like, it's almost like all paths would lead to this. And if they weren't, you'd be a very unhappy person.
Yeah. I will say one thing. There was one class that I really loved in university, and it was a philosophy class that I took. The professor was so engaging and so out of the box, so unique, and you'd like yell at us sometimes, be like, are you awake? Do you hear me? And
he's performing.
He'd like smack the table. He's like, is this even real? And I'm like, I love this. Like, this guy's great. It it made school feel like life. Like, this is real life. This is somebody who is passionate about what he does. He's not just here for a paycheck. And he cares about having students engaged in what they're learning and actually thinking for a change, as opposed to just take these notes, study them, memorize them, and get good grades. Like, he wanted us to think about the meaning of life and question reality in itself. And that to me was the most entertaining thing. My first A I ever got in my life.
Really?
Yeah, because I loved it so much.
Would you categorize yourself as a grunge type artist? Where's that box?
I would say there's kind of a box, a little bit of both. I'd say more on the aspect of like alternative music, like alternative grunge for sure. And then I also have my ballad style songs where I just kind of strip everything back with just the piano. So you could take it as like indie acoustic.
What was the name of that new song?
Freak of Nature.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me about that song.
That song, I was inspired when I go for these walks near my aunt and uncle's house, and it's got like this view of downtown, and kind of feels like it's out of the city when you go into the trees, and it's really fun. I like to go for walks there when I feel like my mind's kind of starting to spiral out of control. And I brought my notebook with me because I was like, maybe I'll find some inspiration today, who knows? And I did. I was watching the grass, and it looked like it was like walking behind me, and there were all like these little white fluffy things. I don't even know what they're called, and they kept following me and getting in my way, and I was like, it's like nature was kind of interacting with me in a sense, and I wanted to write a song about nature. I know when I was a kid, people used to make fun of me for how much I liked being outdoors. They're like, you're so weird, why don't you come to a party? I'm like, no, I'm gonna go for a walk in the trees.
Hang out with the trees.
I want to be one with the trees.
They got something to say.
Yeah, they got a lot to tell me. So I was like, people call you a freak when you do weird things. I'm like, of nature.
Yeah.
Boom. So.
Do you remember the first album you ever bought?
One of Gwen Stefani's CDs. Way back when I used to play
Were you
that.
a Hollaback girl?
Yeah, I used to play that on repeat. My mom was like, again? Why are we listening to this again? And then I had a Loverboy CD, Working for the Weekend. My parents probably heard that song about 100 times on repeat. They're like, oh my God, she's playing it again. It's happening again.
Mike Reno told me he still has the bandana, but he can't fit in the pants. I was just doing a thing on Canadian icons, and in the 90s, Canadian women owned music. Yeah. Celine Dion, Shania Twain.
Yeah.
There was a lot of them. But now, all the Canadian people that I talk to, they're all saying what they used to say in the 80s, which is you can go gold and ride the bus. Where there's not a lot of money, you got to do the shows. The good news is we like doing shows. Steve Picaro of Toto once told me, he said, well, we tour because we don't want to lose our stuff. And I went, that was like sobering for me. But how do you look at music financially now as a musician who's getting out there a lot?
I think that there's many opportunities to make money. And I think, a lot of these bars and whatnot, they pay really well.
Do you have swag?
Yeah.
You do good.
Yeah. I think the hardest part though, financially though, is trying to establish a work music balance. Because, if you're not getting booked 2 to 3 shows every week, you're not going to be able to pay your bills. So you still have to work a regular job. And I think being a musician and working a regular job is really hard sometimes because all I can think about is my music and being on stage. Or, for example, I worked at a bar and they always had live music. And I was like, I wish I was out there right now and not back here making drinks. It would have been a lot nicer. But financially, the hardest part was at the start when I had to ask people for tips. Like, that was how I made money. And being like, hey, give me money. Like, people are like, what are you? I'm just here to listen to you sing. I'm not giving you my money, And it's hard sometimes with the state of how expensive everything is. People don't just have a bunch of money they can just throw at you as an artist. And while people do when I perform, at the start, I did not know how to ask and I wasn't making anything. And I was like, is this what this is? Is this what they mean when they say the struggle of the musician,
The starving musician.
the starving musician.
Yeah.
Like, is this what this is? But no, I definitely think that financially there's a lot of opportunity, especially in Canada, Calgary. From here, I would love to book bigger shows, and like you were talking about touring, I really want to tour.
When I was watching the dynamic of the last show, I was seeing the musicians hang out with each other.
Yeah.
Like there's that fraternity, there's that club, there's like, you know, my pain. I was watching you do your thing and, you know, making the rounds with people. That's kind of like being in school where everyone's nice. You earn it because you do the work, like I said, but also because they admire what you're doing. How does that feel? And then follow that up with, how does that girl feel on stage? First, before the show, and you're talking to all these people, which is kind of cool. Do you feel like maybe this is the way school should have been? I mean, because you were getting a lot of people.
100%, I feel that.
You're redoing the whole thing.
Yeah. That's actually really well said. I am redoing it. That girl on stage and that girl when she's talking to musicians feels like the person that she always wanted to be. Mm-hmm. But nobody ever saw that when she was in school. And I definitely had a tough time throughout school. I did a lot of singing in school and I wasn't.
So you were the singing girl? They knew you were.
Yeah, but there was no support for that. It was like, she's a try hard. She's, you know, weird. She's very loud and like trying to be this like powerhouse. And she's so tiny. Like, it doesn't make sense. But I kept going, you know, and now when people doubt me, it's fuel for my soul. Keep going. Keep doubting me. Tell me I can't do it. Tell me I can't do it. But no, it feels really great to go up on stage. I feel like the best version of myself, and to talk to all these musicians. I've never really thought about it. Just kind of like a in the moment, natural thing that it's like I'm a part of one big community and feel like I have a place now. You know, and everyone's trying to find their place in school, but nobody ever really does.
Tell me about other early albums that you listened to. Your influences. Who are the bigger influences for you? Kurt Cobain must be in there someplace because you do Smells Like Teen Spirit like nobody's business.
Both. Thank you. Both my parents were into like, you know, rock and roll and grunge, but my parents were very different. Like my dad really liked hair metal and grunge, which is ironic because, you know, so he was on the more like grunge, hair metal side, and my mom was big into like, you know, like Heart, Fleetwood Mac, Loverboy. Good
blend there between
very good blend, yeah. But I really gravitated towards, especially like the hair metal videos. I remember at Twisted Sister, we're not gonna take it.
Oh my god!
And they're like these big guys with like these crazy outfits, and they're like, rah! And I'm just like, I love this. It's so absurd and obnoxious. And my mom's like, why? Why can't you like Fleetwood Mac? I'm like, I love Fleetwood Mac. Like, what are you talking about? I love Fleetwood Mac, but this, yeah. And she's like, yeah. And she kind of figured.
If you really, really want it, but if you don't feel it, who feels nothing and does something? You got to feel it.
Yeah, well, that's a part of the human experience in itself. That's why I gravitated towards music, because I feel so much.
What time do you go to bed after that?
Really depends on the show. If I'm doing acoustic sets, it's usually like I hang out for half an hour and talk to people, and I'm like, hey, I gotta go. I'm really tired. It takes a lot more out of me, believe it or not, to do my acoustic sets because I'm more in tune with my emotions and I'm picking up on everybody else's emotions. As opposed to when I'm working with the full band, it's more like I need to amp myself up, and sometimes I get tired before I go on, but as soon as I'm on stage, I'm like, okay, I got energy. We're good. And for a bit, you know, I get tired, but then my adrenaline kicks in after those shows, and I'm like, I just want to talk to people. I want to drink. I want to party, which I'm practicing not doing anymore, actually. I stopped drinking before shows so that I could stay focused. And I was like, I'll just drink during or after. The during was terrible because everything just kind of declined progressively. I was like, I'm not professional. I'm not caring as much. And my voice is starting to go because I'm drying it out with this alcohol. So I was like, okay, after shows, we'll reward ourselves and then we'll be fine. Now we don't do that either because, you know, when you're out and you're talking to musicians and you're talking to your fans and stuff, it's important that you are in the right mind. and anything you say could.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and sometimes when I'm under the influence of alcohol, I say some pretty dumb things. I'm like, I don't know why I did that.
There's an artist I talked to. I'm just going to talk about the head twirling. The intro of the drumming comes in for Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Yes.
The in-laws, it's strange because it shows what generation they're from. They're going, is she supposed to do that? And I'm going, you've not been to a rock concert before? That's what people do. And they mentioned a chiropractor.
Yeah.
I went, no, she doesn't need to go to a chiropractor after that. That's just looking at your stage presence. And another thing, when you made everyone go down, sit down. I remember when my first thought was, why is she doing that? And everyone was like, ooh, cool. And I'm like, yeah, there's that kind of like, we're all in this. We're all in this vibe. Tell me about
together.
that. Yeah.
I think getting the crowd to engage in the performance is really important, and making them feel like they're a part of it, as opposed to I'm here and I'm separate from the performers. It's like, no, we're all together on this. Like, we're all a part of one thing tonight, and we're here to have fun. And, most people, when they go to concerts, they just kind of stand there and they bob their head, and they sometimes feel a little awkward, So if you catch them off guard, you're like, hey, I want everyone to get real low. They're like, what the hell is happening right now? Okay, this is cool.
Oh, that was really cool.
Yeah.
It was a nice moment in the show.
Yeah, kind of like having those what's going on moment. Just like kind of throwing people off a little bit. I'm like, I don't know. Do you want me to, okay, yeah, I'll do that, sure. And then you like slowly bring them up. It's like, it's a theatrical performance when you do stuff like that, And it's funny that you mentioned the Cairo thing. My neck was so sore the day after that show. I couldn't get my head off the pillow. It was so bad. It was so, and then I watched the video. I'm like, my head looked like a bobblehead. I'm like, how did it not?
I don't know how you did that.